One of the biggest questions we get is people, oh, I thought all the syrup was made in Vermont, and that's really not the case. Pennsylvania has a fairly large standing in the maple syrup industry, especially in north central Pennsylvania. We have lots of maple trees, and it's evolved over the years to the point where we have, not too far from here, one of the largest producers in the state.
Pennsylvania is rated approximately 5th in the United States for their maple syrup. We do produce a lot of it, especially in the northern region of the state, although in the Somerset area, they're really big in making maple syrup down there as well. In our family, we've been doing it since the 1920s. Down in Somerset, they've been doing it since the 1800s.
Pennsylvania has a lot of maple trees. We do make a considerable amount of maple syrup. An offshoot of that is the fact that those maple trees are what make our fall foliage as bright and as brilliant as it is.
Mother Nature plays a big part in our seasons. Our season can range anywhere from January to and go as far as April. We need at least 40-degree days and freezing nights. As long as it keeps doing that back and forth, you can keep producing the sap, which makes the maple syrup. If your temperatures stay warm and the trees start to bud, Mother Nature has shut off the sap and we're into spring and our season is over with.
The tapping process is something we try to tap mostly all the trees ourselves. It usually takes us a couple of weeks to tap our 8,000 trees. We follow the industry and follow their tapping guidelines, which changed in the fact of the way we put them in. We try to use new spiles every year to keep the tap hole from being contaminated so we get more sap, it runs longer. We buy special drill bits that we use. We even have what we call precision tappers that go on our drills that allow us to tap a tree almost like with a drill press. So we get a nice, clean, sharp hole, which helps tremendously in the fact that the sap keeps running, the holes don't seal over, and we get a better quality product in our sap run.
The Indians, they are the first ones that realized that there was a liquid in the tree, and they're the ones that figure out how to use this. And they would just put in a tomahawk to make a notch in the tree. They made their little spiles with birch wood, and then they would boil it down to make their syrup. Back then, they didn't have any way to can it though, so they would actually make it into what's called a sugar block. So it's a hard block of maple syrup. Time went on, they taught the settlers this. The settlers stepped it up a notch and had wooden buckets and used augers at a certain point. They had the same problem, though they had no way to can it, so they also made it into a sugar block. As things went on though, our great-grandfather used some metal buckets and they would collect them and put them in a sleigh that was driven by horses, and they would bring it down to the sugar house and empty those buckets. And that continued for many, many years. And as time progressed, the tubing came around. Spiles go in the tree, a tubing is attached to those spiles, and that is attached to what they call a main line. And the main line is where all the sap from the trees goes into and runs down to the collection tank.
When we started making maple syrup the first year, we had 100 buckets. Then we had a little pan out in the field and it was wood fired. And then the next year we bought out a farmer who was retiring, kind of threw up a sugar house on the spur of the moment, thinking, if we make 100 gallons of syrup, well, that's going to be a big deal. And this year we built a new sugar house, put it in a new operation, automated everything. And so we went from making a few gallons of syrup out in the field on an open pan to making upwards of 3,000 gallons in a modern sugar house that we can make a quality product.
Talking of that technology, one of the things we're really excited about and employ here is the monitoring systems. We can watch our vacuum levels, and as they drop, we can isolate that. It used to be you have to go look the whole mountain over to find where that leak might be that's dropping your production. Now we've got monitors on different branches of those sugar bushes that will point us to that direction where we can save manpower and send them to that spot and get it corrected. We can also turn pumps on, turn pumps off from our computers here. We can control it from our phones. I remember my dad used to get up in the morning, travel to the different sugar bushes, turn the pumps on, travel there again at night, turn them off. We now control valves from remote locations, or we can send sap to a tank ready to be picked up. Also technology to where our vacuum pumps will speed up as vacuum is needed and then idle down, saving electricity when it's reached its target vacuum level.
It takes 43 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. So before reverse osmosis machines were around, you had a lot of water that had to come out of that sap to boil it down to the density that you need to have maple syrup. And that took everybody a long time. And now the reverse osmosis has come out, and most everybody that's making maple syrup, even if you're a hobby person, has a reverse osmosis. It could be one you've put together, it could be a commercial one, but what that does is take all the extra water out of it and makes a concentrate, and then you don't have to boil the sap as long to the finishing product, the syrup.
Along with obviously the maple syrup that's made in Pennsylvania, there's a whole variety of value-added products that are derived from that. They all include some sort of maple syrup or processed or cooked one step further, a different technique to make it and keep it part of the maple syrup family.
My father-in-law, Richard, I can just say it didn't matter if you had 10 taps or 10,000 taps. He loved to talk about maple. Maple was his passion, and he loved to help people out. He would tell you anything you needed to know. There wasn't any secret that we do, and he would pass it on. When they formed the associations, I believe it created teamwork between each other. You can have a problem or talk about this or talk about that. You can go to each other's sugar houses and look how they've done it, get some pros and cons of different equipment and things like that. It also helps us on the larger scale that when you're buying your jugs to put the syrup in, it's being bought by an association, so the manufacturer will give the association a reduced rate, and then you buy your jugs from the association. A lot of your manufacturers won't sell to individuals.
The variety of members in the association vary with their levels of technology and their production techniques. Again, from the gentleman that wants to make it the same way we did 300 years ago, the way the settlers might have done it, to those of us that are employing the technology. There's a variety and diversity. You can see a lot of different ways of production.
On the maple tour, there are many different things. Obviously, every producer is unique in their situation, their sugar bush, their sugar house, their equipment, or whatever. But the main thing that you can learn on this tour is we do make maple syrup in Pennsylvania. There are many maple syrup producers in Pennsylvania. The second thing you can learn is the fact that it is unique. The industry is run by private individuals, everybody doing their own operation and promoting their business in their own way. The third thing you can learn is that sap has to be boiled to make maple syrup.
Maple Weekend is a really fun time for people coming into the area that know about maple but don't really know a lot about it. All the sugar houses on the tour, they're stretched from Tioga into Potter, from small to large. There's pancake breakfasts offered, but our goal is to teach everybody about maple syrup industry.
You may learn about the different products we make from maple syrup. The maple cream, the maple candy, and the maple crumb sugar are all pure maple products.
From there, people have gone to more value-added products. They're making barbecue sauces, and we're making mustards and salad dressings and coating nuts and fudge, and just the products are endless. There's even dog treats that are made out there.
And that's maple syrup. It's not just for pancakes anymore.
It is a lot of fun, and I don't think you can go wrong with just having a weekend traveling around and seeing all the sugar houses around the area.